Amidst the demon lord's invasion to eradicate humanity's existence, a dragon conquered the skies under its master, who sought absolute power to obtain the happiness he desired. Even his talismans were able to level entire fields and burn cities away, while his dragon alone was one of the 7 ancient deities that ruled the world. But it was because of his conquest to reach divine power that he opposed the imperial court to become the strongest exorcist, and society began to fear him. His family was burnt alive, betrayed at the hands of his favorite student. But he knew that it wasn't her fault, since they had taken her family hostage as well. So in his next life, he swore to be more cunning and activated the forbidden god magic. Under the full moon, his soul possessed a child as his father assessed his magical potential. But the spell collapsed, and Glai was glad that their useless brother was unable to use any magic. He had reincarnated in a world with a different magical flow, but although his body lacked all magical mana, he sensed the infinite spirit arts dormant within him. Every morning, he would gather hundreds of leaves since paper was expensive, and used his arts to transform them into shikigami that would give life to mice and crows. At the same time, Glai would bully him for being a bastard child. But even when Seika would ask him to stop, he would grab him by the collar to punch him. However, the crows began attacking Glai. But when Luft came to force them away, he realized that they completely avoided Seika and began suspecting him. While his familiars gathered information about this world, he knew that no one would celebrate his 7th birthday, and they all ignored him for being the child of a mistress. Even so, he spent every day working in the field to prepare paper for creating his talismans. But when he heard knocking on the door, he saw their maid Yifa outside, telling him that she found his coat in the bushes. However, he knew that it must have been Glai, but when he screamed at Yifa to get back to work, he reminded Seika that he'll never have a slave, since a magicless loser would never be able to enter the Imperial Londonia Academy. However, Blaze appeared and commanded Glai to get back to his magical lessons, but as they walked away, Seika asked his father if he could join their training. In the training field, Luft chanted the Wind's Edge incantation, launching a vortex that drilled the stone apart. Next was Glai's turn, and as he activated the Spirits of Flame spell, he released a fireball to scorch the stone. However, he was glad that Seika came out to embarrass himself in front of their father. But as Seika wielded the wand and remembered his vow to hide his power in this life, he realized that the strong always exploited the weak. So he activated his spiritual arts to pretend as if he was using magic, and incinerated a rock before launching it away, pulverizing the stone out of existence. No one had ever performed an incantationless spell before, especially for a blue fireball. But Glai thought his magic must have remained in the wand. However, when Seika asked his father if he could learn magic, Blaze told him that it was useless to train a talentless mage, but decided to assign him a tutor like his brothers. For the next 4 years, he began learning the world's language along with secretly spying on his siblings. But Blaze continued wondering if he was half demon. By the time he turned 11, he remembered the 7 deities he had sealed away, and was finally prepared to summon his least threatening servant into this world. So as an ancient door materialized before his eyes, a hot girl emerged, but Seika couldn't recognize who she was. However, when she jumped on him, he realized it was definitely the dumb bitch Yuki, but wondered why she was no longer a beautiful woman. Realizing that his spiritual power must be a lot weaker in this young body, she swore that she'll serve him forever, but he revealed that he was only testing the dimensional gate's abilities in this world. So as he tried sealing her ugly ass away, she transformed into a small fox, swearing that she would never leave his side again. The following morning, Glai began screaming at Yifa for dropping the water on his clothes. But as he kept scolding her, he said that he would be willing to forgive her if she came to his room, and would educate her on what it meant to be a slave. However, Seika told his brother to stop abusing her, but when Glai heard Seika's insolence and tried punching him, Seika blocked his attack. So Glai stared at him before pulling away, telling him that he's playing with his life. Once he was gone, Seika told Yifa to never go to Glai's room, so she promised that she won't, but asked him if he could follow her. Outside, as she showed him the dying baby Evie, he asked her to turn away to conceal his powers. After pulling a hair and infusing it with his talisman, the Shikigami was sacrificed to heal the Vaporeon. And Yifa was shocked he was able to use magic when he was born without any mana. But when he thought that she was also hiding her secret ability, she told him it's not like she can see spirits or anything like that. Baka.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now!
However, he revealed that he was also able to see the spirits, but thought that she was able to see something even greater than him, wondering what it was. So she revealed that he discovered the secret she's always concealed, as she was able to see the elementals in the world, but thought that it was strange as every elemental appeared to avoid him. Although he didn't know the reason, he realized that she was capable of controlling them, something that he was never able to master in his previous life. So realizing that he finally found the person he's been looking for, he asked her if she would like to learn magic, activating his Shikigami to summon a fireball in the air. She hadn't ever tried to use magic before, so she asked the fireball to disappear politely, and when it didn't listen, she tried begging the fireball to leave. However, she screamed that no one would miss its ugly ass, causing the flame to disappear out of existence. And Seika realized that he was lucky to find someone who could dispel magic, asking her to keep her powers a secret between them. Throughout the weeks, he would train her until she was able to control the flow of her own mana, and even as all the seasons passed, they spent their time together, training until she was able to master dispelling magic. Today was Seika's 12th birthday, but unlike his brothers, he didn't receive any presents or a cake. And even his own father wasn't here. Although he had grown used to their mistreatment of him, Glai called for Seika, saying they would be training him because his mother was a mistress, so the only path left for his weak body was joining the army. Just then, however, a maid screamed that a large monster appeared, and was heading directly towards their mansion. Hearing those words, Seika revealed that it was already here, and as the elder newt destroyed the tree in the distance, Glai ran away for his pathetic, worthless life. As Luff tried commanding the maids to evacuate to the shelter, he saw that Seika was running in the opposite direction. At the same time, the elder newt was about to devour Yifa, but before he would summon his talisman to save her, she activated the elementals to burn the beast away. So once she was gone, he commanded the beast to follow him, and as he leapt into the sky, all of the servants in the mansion began watching him. The veins inside of its body began absorbing the poison, but he had secretly completed its taming, leaving his brother wondering how he defeated it with a single attack. Everyone thought he was incredibly powerful, so he waved back at them, glad that everything had gone according to his plan since he reincarnated. In this second life, he would be cunning and would finally gain the happiness he desired. At the same time, his father had seen the battle and decided to hold a feast in honor of his bastard son. But although the worthless attention whore was pissed off, Blaze wanted to reward Seika for defending the mansion. So Seika revealed that he did have one request, asking for his permission to enroll in the Londonia Magic Academy. But when his father accepted his request, Seika asked for Yifa to be enrolled as his servant as well. However, Blaze thought that she lacked mana, but Seika told him to shut his worthless f***ing mouth and decided to show him her power. Before everyone, he asked Yifa to shout Flame Knot before giving her his wand. So because she wanted to stay with Seika her entire life, she began to awaken all of the flame elementals in the forest. As she said the word Flame Knot, a massive mid-rank fireball erupted outside of the window, so when Seika asked if his dad was satisfied, he said that he would enroll them. But Glai's ugly ass thought it was unacceptable. The Lamprogues had never allowed two brothers to follow the same path, so he thought that their tradition shouldn't be broken for a failure and a worthless slave. But his father said that he was going to still uphold their traditions. The one joining the army would be Glai. Blaze revealed, and went on to ask him if he's been improving his magic all these years, because while Seika was training every day, he was hanging out with a bad crowd and playing with his sword. However, Glai wouldn't accept his father's words, so he challenged Seika to a duel, telling him that he would be kicking him out of their home if he lost. Although Blaze told Seika that he could refuse, Seika accepted the challenge, so their father decided to judge the match, on the condition that real swords and mid-rank magic wouldn't be used. Inside of his room, Seika crafted more talismans until his brother knocked on the door, and once Luff came inside, he apologized for being late to wishing him a happy birthday, but gave him a present that was a glass pen. He regretted spending their entire lives not being as kind as he should have been, but was proud to see how much his brother had grown, and asked him to go easy on Glai, as he had known all along that Seika was stronger than all of them. Under the two moons, Yuki thought Luft's present was worthless, but Seika told her that she was the one who's fucking worthless. However, he realized something was off and commanded her to hide, as the window blasted open. When he looked outside, he saw Glai in the field, screaming that their duel had begun. As they faced off, Glai thought that Seika only defeated the monster because he was lucky, so he wanted to fight him to the death, and abandon their father's conditions, summoning a magical sigil to cast Flame Knot, incinerating his brother. He thought that his spell was much stronger than his worthless slave, but Seika told him that it would never compare to Yifa's flames. Shocked that he was still alive, Glai summoned Wind Lance to pierce his brother, but saw a light magic barrier protecting him. So Seika took out his talisman as Glai began releasing all of his spells. In that moment, Seika commanded Glai that he was forbidden to move, freezing all of his neurons, before twisting the talisman to break his arm off. However, he revealed that he was only feeling the pain. But when Glai wondered who Seika really was, he decided to accept those words as surrendering. In that moment, he healed his arm, leaving him to collapse onto the ground. As he stared at his worthless face, he remembered Glai calling him lucky for defeating the Elder Newt, but thought it was hilarious. After all, he had been preparing for 6 months, because after summoning his second divine deity, a massive Cyclops entered this realm, rushing towards Seika before saying that he was glad to serve him once more. However, Yuki reminded Bonds that she was the first one he summoned, and Seika asked him to follow his Shikigami into the mountain, and drive the Elder Newt into their forests. He had purposely lured it towards their mansion so everyone would acknowledge his power, allowing him to attend the Magic Academy instead of Glai. However, Yuki wondered why he was creating these complicated plans, especially when he could get everything he wanted in this world filled with weak humans. But Seika reminded her that those weak humans were the ones who killed him. He desired to become one of the countless weak humans in his second life, since his path to absolute power had only casted him away into isolated loneliness. When spring finally arrived, Luft wished for his brother to stay safe, but after Yifa yawned, Luft wondered if she had stayed up, so Seika revealed that she was doing something hard in his room all night. As their carriage began pulling away, Seika wanted to reward Yifa for studying all of last night, so she promised that she would treasure it, and he revealed that this would draw the elementals towards her. He wanted her to become the strongest elementalist possible, but when he looked out the window, he realized they were already at the Academy City, and wondered how time had managed to warp. Back inside of his office, Blaze realized that Seika must have arrived by now, and wondered how 12 years had already passed since then. During a rainy storm, a mysterious assassin had delivered his brother's child to him, but Blaze wondered if he had died after disappearing in the Demon Continent. His child was one of the only humans with black hair and black eyes, so Luft kept his distance while Glai came to see him as an enemy, and Blaze wondered if he was a demon. After all, he was able to summon blue fireballs without possessing any magic, and wondered how he was capable of using poison on the Elder Newt, when no human had ever used it before. He felt bad for sending Glai to the army, but realized that if Seika saw the horrors of war, he would become the next demon king that eradicates humanity, instead of the hero that saves it. Once they arrived at Seika's dorm, he revealed that her room would be next to his, but those words made her sad, as she thought he was her master now. So she asked him if she should come to his room at night, but he told her that he didn't need a cutting board, since she looked like an emo with a flat-ass chest.
What did he say?
After she ran out crying, Yuki grew angry that the worthless slave didn't know her place, but when Seika wondered what she meant, Yuki revealed that Yifa was in love with him and wanted him to use her as a slave to fulfill her fantasies. Hearing those words, he realized that he would truly never understand how girls think, so Yuki told him to study or he would have a hard time, but he realized that Yifa was going to make something else hard. At the prestigious Londonia Academy, he realized that a mysterious pool of mana had been accumulating, but the examiner called for everyone to evaluate their mana levels. When it was Seika's turn, the examiner asked him to place his hand on the crystal sphere, saying that it would shine white if he had aptitude for all elements, although it's never happened before. This was the magical system of this world, as there were 4 primary elements to cast from. But there was also light and shadow magic, similar to the magic he invented in his previous life. As Yifa infused her mana into the sphere, the examiner discovered that she had an aptitude for wind and fire magic. But when it was Seika's turn, nothing appeared. The examiner thought he might have light or shadow aptitude, but he revealed that he didn't have any magical power. Everyone thought he was going to use his connections to enter the academy, but a girl screamed at all of them to shut their mouths, introducing herself as Amy. As she reached out for the sphere, a white beam of light blinded all the applicants, and as she walked away, they realized that she had mastered all 4 elements. But Seika was surprised to see her here. Although her hair was a different color, she was the same person he knew very closely in his past life, and at night, a blue-haired girl grew worried. At the same time, the Demon Lord gave a single order to the General Galios, crush the hero. The following day, after Seika finished the written exam, he saw Amy wielding a sword and wondered how strong she truly was. In the training field, the worthless examiner revealed that they would be evaluating the strength of their elements. One by one, all the students summoned their fire magic. But as Seika watched, he realized that they were only able to use one element, and were extremely weak. Next was Yifa's turn, so as she walked towards the stone and activated her flame knot, the fire blast nearly burnt the stone away. But as all the students wondered how she didn't use an incantation, Yifa revealed that she would be moving on to her next target. Even Seika had no idea what she was planning, so as she raised her wand and casted Wind Lance, the stone completely disappeared from existence, and Seika realized that the stone wasn't the only thing rock hard. As she apologized to Seika for destroying the targets, he thought her wind spell was amazing, so she revealed that she was practicing it behind his back, and he cried as her dedication was exactly what a master wishes for. Finally, it was Seika's turn, so he summoned his fireball to burn the blue target, shocking all of them. But he moved on as the flame continued burning away. Analyzing that the stone was made of granite, he decided to combine the phases of earth and metal to cast his crystallization magic, releasing spikes to destroy his target. But even the examiner had never seen a spell like that before. However, Seika apologized because his spell was a secret, but knew that he could never reveal the truth since he wasn't using magic. When he approached the water target, he released an invisible water shikigami and infused it with a shadow phase, releasing a stream of water that froze the entire field. Realizing he had done enough damage, he decided to stop his exam. But Yifa laughed, glad she had the strongest master alive. With the sun setting, the examiner wondered how both of them were able to release the strongest spells in the history of the academy, when they barely possessed any magic. However, nothing could surprise him anymore, since someone even more powerful than them had appeared, and had mastered all magic types at a young age. The red-haired examiner realized that she might be the hero, the one who was born when the Demon King revived. The results of the exam were finally announced, and when Seika searched for their names, Yifa begged him to not abandon her if she failed, but he saw that he was the 3rd person on the list. However, Yifa was ranked even higher than him, but he tried congratulating her, although he was shocked that she beat him on the practical exam, and saw that number 1 was Amy, realizing she was the one person he's always looked for. Several days after the announcement, an invitation was sent to all those who enrolled in the academy, but Yifa wondered if her skirt was too short. Seika told her that it wasn't, because he wanted it to be even shorter. As they walked towards the entrance ceremony, Seika sensed dark magic from behind the bushes, and Yifa realized something was off as she noticed dark elementals hiding inside. After walking deeper into the forest, they found a demonic sigil, but although Yifa thought it was evil, Seika told her to ignore it since it belonged to the school, while secretly releasing invisible talismans to monitor the area. Inside the hall, when the entrance ceremony began, Amy walked up the stage and announced that she was the representative for the new students. At the same time, the magic circle lit up outside, and as Seika sensed that monsters were drawing closer to the hall, the doors exploded at that instant. So as lesser demons appeared before their eyes, the useless students began to run away, but Seika noticed they were searching for one of them. When one of the demons tried to end a girl, a sword sliced his hand, as Amy appeared to save the girl. And as she evaded his strike, she launched wind lances across his body and told the disgusting students to get out of her way. However, Seika noticed that the demons were too slow and thought they were being controlled from the distance. So as he decided to scan the outside, he found the caster inside the forest. So he told Yifa to use her magic to run and hide if it got dangerous, before teleporting away, and leaving his talisman behind. Before long, he began walking towards the demon, reciting a poem about a night with a full moon, where one of them will meet his doom. But when the demon thought his poem was as useless as his ugly face, Seika said roses are red, violets are blue, your mom's a fat-ass gorilla that belongs in the zoo. Looking to end him immediately, the demon summoned lesser demons from a portal. But as he commanded them to attack, Seika cast a spell of falling fruit, ending the monsters before him. So as the last one froze up from a protect spell, Seika opened a portal under him and sealed him inside another realm. Realizing he could use teleportation magic, the demon prepared to face Seika, summoning swords from smaller portals. As he introduced himself as Galios, he said he was a demon of metal who controls fire and earth elements. But when Seika tried casting a spell, Galios extinguished it in an instant, saying that his spells couldn't work on him. However, as Seika ignited paper talismans, Galios shielded himself from the flame, but as he summoned more papers, Galios burned them instantly. So to eliminate him, Galios launched a sword, but as Seika dodged it, it slashed his face before he knew it, making him realize that Galios had teleported the blade back. As Galios began saying that he can use black teleportation magic, he cast a flame towards him, but as Seika leaped away, he materialized behind him, slashing off his arm at that instant. However, as Seika managed to survive the attack, he began wondering why he was spying on the students through the eyes of the lesser demons. So Galios revealed that he was looking for the hero. It was the divine prophecy of the reincarnation of the demon lord. And Galios went on to reveal that he had already found her. As Seika realized she was Amy, Galios launched a dozen swords to eliminate him, but Seika evaded them and leaped over another. But as double blades sliced him at the same time, Galios sent him to Nirvana. With Galios thinking he was dead, he began heading away to find Amy, but the sound of Seika's voice reciting ancient incantations drew back his attention. As he spotted him on top of his blade, he began wondering how he was still alive, and launched a blade into his skull. But as it disintegrated, Seika told him that he resurrected himself, and revealed that he already set a spell to eliminate anything that doesn't belong on his body. However, Galios thought he could end him anyway, and summoned 100 swords, vowing to end Amy once Seika was dead. But as Seika heard these words, he thought Galios was a moron, and began saying that strength could only be defined by the powerful allies he has. Even so, Galios thought he must be too weak to depend on allies, and tried ending him. But as Seika managed to evade the blades, he cast a spell to unleash a huge waterfall, but Galios had teleported already. However, when he tried attacking him from above, Seika had anticipated his attack, so he cast a spell, striking the demon with lightning. But by the time the smoke cleared, Seika realized he was nowhere in sight, but he stabbed him from behind before he knew it. However, it was all part of Seika's plan, as he exploded before Galios' eyes. But he managed to survive, and began oozing with a red aura. He thought Seika would soon run out of those talismans, and was ready to end his life, but Seika revealed more than 1,000 of them. He revealed that he had spent his entire life creating them, but was ready to end their battle, casting the dimensional gate to summon Mizuchi. So as a dozen portals opened, a dragon emerged outside, and as it tried to eat Galios out, it ascended towards the moon, eventually devouring his body. At the sight of this, Seika was glad that the demon was eliminated, but as he was ready to return the dragon into the other realm, it began trying to escape. Realizing it was heading towards the school, he set his talismans on it and managed to redirect it, before sealing it back inside the realm. He wondered how a weak deity like Mizuchi was able to escape, but realized that his useless body was still too weak, so he needed to grow older before commanding the remaining 4 deities. Just then, Yuki jumped on his body, revealing that she was hiding the entire time, but thought it was reckless that he allowed himself to get killed. However, Seika revealed that it was part of his plan, as he now could use his Shikigami to resurrect himself from the dead. By the time he returned to the hall, he realized that all the students had been injured, but Aoife told him that Amy had killed all the lesser demons. As Seika heard these words, he realized that Amy was the perfect person he needed as an ally. After all, he could easily stay hidden while using her to advance his plans, and although he needed to become her friend, he wouldn't be sad if she lost her life at the end. In order to gain his happiness, he vowed to make her the strongest person in the world, even if he had to defeat the Demon King himself. A month had passed since Seika attended the academy with Aoife, but when he saw Amy and tried to greet her, she told him to do a favor for humanity by ending his miserable life.
Damn! They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
A few minutes later, a clay jar appeared over them, and just as it spilled, Seika teleported them away, but walked back as he thought something was off. However, Cordell appeared at the window, apologizing for his accident. So after recovering the liquid, he told them that it was a catalyst for his research. But when Seika wondered what the clay jar was intended for, the instructor revealed that he was trying to levitate to the 3rd floor. However, Seika knew that dark magic was the only thing that could manipulate gravity, and wondered what he was hiding. Later in the class, the teacher began to announce that the school's anniversary was coming up, and asked Amy and Aoife to deliver the new student roster as an offering on the day of the anniversary. As Seika heard those words, he realized they would be traveling next to Galeos's magical circle, so he asked if he could take Aoife's spot, and commanded her to refuse her mission. So when she did, the teacher thought he was a disgrace to the noble families, but Seika said the only disgrace was her disgusting face.
Yo, that one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
That evening, while heading away from school, Seika decided to tell Aoife that Amy was actually in danger, and said he was taking her place so that he could protect her. Her battle with the demons had made her a target, and he revealed that he intends to watch her back. However, Aoife wondered if he was into Amy, since she was pretty and slim with red hair, but Seika revealed that it was Amy's strength that he was after, and that he only wanted to become her friend. Hearing those words, Aoife swore that she can also grow stronger, but Seika wished that she would help him instead, because Amy's power must have isolated her throughout her life. On the day of the school ceremony, the teacher handed them the roster, but as they headed into the forest, Amy demanded to know why he volunteered to replace Aoife, so he told her that he wanted to be her friend, and that he wanted to have a long chat with her. However, Amy thought that she couldn't satisfy him, especially when he already had a slave with massive milkers. But he told her that she was wrong, and that she was exactly what he would look for on a beach, because she was as flat as a surfboard.
Bodies, 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 bodies!
As she thought he was an ugly creep, her mind was shocked at that instant, and as Seika sensed the presence of a dark spell, he went towards the source. Just then, they came across a magic circle, but at that moment, a portal opened, teleporting them instantly. They were transported inside a dungeon, and a group of lizard creatures appeared before them. Without hesitating, Amy charged at them, and as she leapt over to the other side, she unleashed a fireball that completely obliterated them. However, as an orc appeared behind her and was about to end her life, Seika cast a spell that crushed its head with a spike. But she had never seen his spell before, so as they began looking for the exit, Seika cast a new spell to light their way, and Amy was shocked that he could also use light magic. At the same time, he was casting talisman signals to help his Shikigami on the outside to detect their location. Just then, a bunch of goblins rushed at them, but Amy slayed them with quick strikes, and as she managed to block an attack, she slashed the monster's arm off. Before she knew it, he returned to end her life and smacked her into the wall. However, as they prepared to terminate her, Seika cast a wood spell, impaling them with stakes, but Amy lost consciousness at that moment. So as the rest of the goblins began charging at the same time, Seika realized that he could finally use his real powers, summoning Oriyoshi from the divine gates of hell, and eliminated all the goblins before him. By the time Amy woke up, she realized that all the monsters were dead. But as Seika noticed her head was still hurting, he cast a light barrier over them, realizing she was actually under a curse since it disappeared now. However, when she thought there wasn't any curse sigils on her body, she asked him if he could look at her back, before taking her clothes off, but he wasn't able to find anything behind her hair. However, he revealed that he just wanted her to take her clothes off, since he had a different solution all along. So with a strand of her hair, he moved the curse onto one of his talismans, telling her that it was her new substitute. And so they sat together for hours, but Amy wondered if he's kissed Aoife or even developed plot with her yet. But when Seika told her that he didn't, she thought he was lame since shy girls like her are always freaky. However, he reminded her that she just took her clothes off in a dungeon. But after his ass was knocked out, they went on to eliminate all the goblins until they arrived at the boss's chamber. But as the Naga prepared to face them, Seika activated his stone magic to release impaling stakes, but it nearly burned his face off with acid. So as Seika managed to evade it, Amy blasted it with a wind lance, but it couldn't penetrate the monster's thick scales. Before it could fight back, Seika summoned a spear, and as it nailed the monster into the ground, Amy ignited it with a fireball. At that moment, the fire blew up, so as Amy descended down on it, she stabbed its body, killing it at that instant. As Seika ran towards Amy, she jumped onto him, revealing that this was the first time she defeated a dungeon boss. But when Yuki asked Seika why he didn't teleport out this entire time, he revealed that he wanted to have fun with Amy, and to give her battle experience so she could become the strongest someday. Before long, they came across a mithril sword, and Seika pulled it out of the monster, causing it to disintegrate before their eyes. And as he gave it over to Amy, he noticed a ring on the floor, and realized it was filled with magic, telling her that it was fun being an adventurer. When Amy tried asking him what he would do when he got older, He promised to go adventuring with her again, so she grew happy, telling him that it was a promise. After escaping the dungeon, Seika told Professor Karen about the secret labyrinth underneath the school, but concealed the existence of Amy's curse and the source of his magic. That night, as he arrived at Cordell's lab, he told him that he already figured out his plan, and revealed that Amy was starting to recover already. Realizing he was exposed, Cordell began wondering how he managed to discover his secret. But Seika revealed that it was impossible for demons to have drawn a magical circle in the school. And seeing that he had the ugliest face out of all the instructors, Seika had suspected him immediately. Deciding to reveal the truth, Cordell took off his disguise, saying that he was a spy for the demons, and that the potion inside the pot was actually a revolutionary curse that could kill anyone like it was an ordinary illness. However, Cordell revealed that his target was the hero, but Seika thought that he was a moron, and decided to reveal his talisman, saying that he has taken the curse off from Amy. As he summoned a demon, he spilled its blood on his body, telling him that he discovered the curse's condition. So now that he was drenched in demon blood, he began casting a spell to transfer the curse onto its creator. This was the power he transferred from his previous life, as he was the cursed exorcist, and told Cordell that he who curses someone digs 2 graves. So as Cordell's organs began to explode, Seika revealed that he was the only one who knew how to dispel curses in this world, so it was extremely unlucky for them to have met in this life. While they walked upstairs, Yifa wondered how he knew it was Cordell, so he revealed that his Shikigami detected the same pollen on his body and on the demonic circle. Later that day, as Seika gave the magical ring to Yifa, she realized the elementals were drawn towards it. Just then, Seika noticed Amy walking by, but as he tried calling for her, she told him to jump off a cliff and hug the ground already. As Seika wondered if his face was that ugly, Amy decided to thank Yifa for helping her study, and Seika wondered when those worthless chicks became friends. 1 year later, while celebrating their sophomore year, the vice principal appeared before Seika and his slave, saying that the principal wishes to speak with them before leaving right away. Although Seika had a bad feeling about the principal, a girl was spying on them from the dark. The following day, when they arrived at the principal's office, she welcomed them inside, and she realized that Seika looked just like his uncle, but he wondered why his father never revealed that he had a brother. Just then, she decided to ask him to enter the mixed discipline tournament in the capital, a renowned tournament between mages and swordsmen. She thought he could be one of the school reps, and summoned a new girl inside. So as she entered the office, she introduced herself as Mabel, and Seika realized he's never seen her before. However, Amy screamed about not being invited, and wondered if Seika was going, so remembering Mabel's face, he told her that he was curious about something in the tournament. While they were heading out of the school, Amy began saying that Mabel must have been chosen by some noble family. But when she said that Mabel probably hasn't experienced any hardship in her entire life, Mabel said that she's the one who's never experienced hardships before. At that moment, they realized she was right behind them, but as Amy was glad to meet her replacement, Mabel revealed that she was never going to be selected, since she was too weak to fight. As she heard those words, Amy commanded 2 morons for their practice swords, challenging Mabel to find who was the weak one among them. Deciding to accept, Mabel picked the sword, and from her stance, Seika realized she was just as skilled as Amy. He was glad to evaluate her strength, and declared the start of the fight. Immediately, Amy rushed towards Mabel, but as she blocked her attack with dark magic, they clashed swords against one another, before Mabel sent her bent sword flying away, easily winning the spar. As she began to leave, she told Amy that she was useless for someone who was supposed to be the hero. But when Amy tried saying that they weren't supposed to use magic, Mabel told her that her excuses would only make her weaker. Right then, she began to tell Seika that he's going to get hurt in the tournament, so he thanked her for her words, before she walked away. The following day, they began heading off to the capital for the tournament, but Seika was wondering why the f*** he was stuck with Yifa's and Amy's disgusting faces. When Yifa began saying that she's his servant, and should stay by his side at all times, Amy revealed that she's never been to the capital before and wanted to see it. However, Seika knew she was lying, since her only desire was to watch Mabel in the tournament. So when he asked her where she would be sleeping, she said that she would sleep in Yifa's bed, but Mabel thought they were all pathetic. After all, they were the same age, but they acted as if they were children without a care in the world. However, Yifa revealed that she was a year older than them, and although Amy was shocked at first, she realized that it explained her massive personality. By the time they arrived at the capital, the girls realized that Seika was carriage sick, but discovered that Mabel had disappeared from the group. Before long, they arrived at the board, and Seika decided to investigate why the academy chose him instead of Amy. The following day, as the tournament was about to begin, Seika noticed his amulet, and realized it was designed to take magical attacks, but would break once it absorbs too many of them. Just then, the announcer introduced him as the first participant, but his opponent arrived on the other side of the field. He was from the Garl's mercenary band, and he told Seika that this would be the last day he was alive, but Seika told the man that he was having a headache and was really tired. However, when the mercenary thought he was making excuses, Seika told him he would end the fight within a second. As his words made him angry, the loser stabbed him as soon as the round began. But when he realized he actually pierced a talisman instead, Seika materialized behind him, blasting him into the wall. So as they realized the loser was down, the announcer declared Seika to be the winner. However, while he was walking through the tunnel, Yuki told him to purposely lose his next match, thinking he was drawing too much attention to himself. But as soon as he rejoined the girls, the second round of the tournament began, and as Sorcerer Ford appeared in the arena, his opponent showed up from the tunnel. His name was Kyle, a guard from the Rujiok Merchant Association. But just as the contest began, he cast a spell that froze his enemy in place. As he began approaching him, while everyone was wondering why Ford was standing still, Kyle pierced him in an instant, making him the first fatality in this tournament. But as he began to leave, Seika decided to study his expression, and realized he was a veteran killer. He thought he has a dark history that should make him a wanted criminal, but wondered why he was intentionally sent to join the tournament. On top of that, he already figured that Kyle was a caster, and thought he was one of the few casters who could put spiritual power into their gaze and curse their opponent with their evil eye. When it was time for the second round, the announcer summoned Seika into the arena, but when his opponent arrived, he discovered it was a puppet. This made him realize that he would be going up against a mage, and as the loser appeared from behind the golem, he began saying that he created it for anti-magic combat, and that Seika has no chance of winning. However, as the contest began, Seika summoned a ghost that slashed the golem with quick strikes, causing it to fall apart. The announcer thought Seika managed to tear it apart with his wind magic, but when he threatened to obliterate her out of existence, she surrendered immediately. As Seika began walking down the tunnel, he was relieved that his trick wasn't discovered, and told Yuki that he could be disqualified for summoning a monster into the arena, since incarnating beasts was forbidden. By the time he rejoined the girls, the new round was about to begin, and Seika noticed Mabel facing off with her opponent. His name was Howlo the Brick Wall, and he thought he would easily crush Mabel with his earth powers. So just as the fight began, Howlo launched a rock blast towards her, but she sliced it easily. Shocked at the sight, the loser continued launching rock blasts, but Mabel sliced everything. As she began walking closer to him, Howlo realized he's screwed, and started casting a new spell. Immediately, he summoned a stone wall for defense, supporting it with another spell, but Mabel hurled daggers into it, shattering it instantly. Unwilling to surrender, the loser summoned half a dozen walls to keep her away, but Mabel destroyed them in an instant, and Seika thought she was using gravity magic. At the same time, Howlo began running away, but as Mabel rushed towards him, she sliced his staff, and the man's life was already flashing before his eyes. Having no other choice, he decided to surrender, and the announcer declared her to be the winner, calling her the red-haired hero. But as Seika heard those words, he began wondering how Mabel became known as the hero, so Yifa revealed that the second hero in history was called Mabel, and that this Mabel also happened to wield her sword. Although it seemed like a good cover story, Seika knew she was hiding something, and wanted to discover her secrets. At dawn, a loser was preparing a message for the demons, but as he sent off the pigeon, a larger bird captured it before his eyes. And at that moment, Seika appeared before him, saying he already discovered that he's a spy for the demons, and that he successfully trailed him here. However, when Seika demanded to know what was inside the message, the man told him to get lost, and began to leave. But as he thought Seika was defenseless, he tried to end his life, but Seika cast a spell, restraining him with binding vines. Realizing Seika already discovered the secret, Gasita began wondering how he found him, so Seika revealed that he had spied on him through the eyes of an owl, and demanded to know who he was spying on. But when Gasita wouldn't say, Seika revealed that he would interrogate his soul. So as he summoned Satori, the fifth deity from the heavenly gates of hell, it began to read his mind as it gave him nightmare fuel, revealing every single thought he had. Just as Seika was asking the questions, she revealed that he was after the hero, Mabel Crane, since she was born at the same time as the ancient prophecies, and happened to be a female with red hair. who was the strongest wielder of the sword in their academy. With Seika having already learned everything he wished to know, he decided to release the ugly loser, but told Satori to eat him as her reward. At that moment, Satori devoured him, but when she was done, she began to read Seika's own mind, as he felt bad for killing an innocent man. However, Seika grew angry and threatened to kill her where she stood. But as he decided to summon the portal, Satori returned into her realm. With the coast clear, Seika called for his bird, and as it retrieved the message, he decided to open it. However, it was written in an unusual code, and Seika wished he asked how he could decode the message. Luckily, he already discovered the Academy's true motive, and thought they were trying to make Mabel win the contest, so that the demons would be convinced that she's the true hero, forgetting about Amy's existence. When Yuki wondered if he has discovered why the principal chose him for the second slot, Seika revealed that he would figure out the entire truth in a matter of time. The following day, when the semi-finals was about to begin, Mabel confronted Seika in the tunnel, and told him to forfeit, saying that the tournament was nothing close to what he thought it was. Unwilling to allow her to decide his future, Seika told her that he wouldn't forfeit the round, so she began telling him that she's not willing to lose to him, and was even willing to kill him. Even so, Seika wouldn't heed her words. When it was time for the first round of the semi-finals, the first mage appeared in the arena. And when Kyle arrived as his opponent, Reincarnated cast a light spell to protect himself from Kyle's evil eye. But the menace began to approach him. Desperate to keep him away, Reincarnated launched a fireball towards him. But he was unscathed and continued walking anyway. So with Reincarnated scared for his life, he began launching more fireballs and blasted him with every single element. But with Kyle still completely unscathed, Seika realized that Kyle was using gravity magic to repel all his attacks. Just then, Reincarnated summoned an army of golems, but Kyle cast a purple shadow, piercing them at the same time, as they shattered to pieces. But as Reincarnated thought he could end him, he began rushing at him. But Kyle managed to restrain him with his shadow, and Seika realized they were using similar magic. However, when Kyle raised his sword to end his life, a whistle went off, and the announcer revealed that the judges have called off the fight, declaring him the winner. That night, while Seika began wondering if he should forfeit his match the next day, he noticed that Yuki was snuggling close to his body, and she asked if she could sleep with him. But at that moment, Seika's owl spotted Mabel on his roof, and as he dived out of the way, the roof collapsed on his bed. Through the smoke, he spotted Mabel on the other side, and wondered why her ugly-ass face was caught blocking him. Without an answer, she hurled a knife at the wall, and immediately tackled him out of the window. But he managed to kick her off, creating a distance between them. As she hurled a knife at him, Seika managed to dodge it. And at that moment, he tried to restrain her, but as she sliced the vine and stabbed his body, he disappeared before her eyes. So to blast her away, he cast a spell of internal release, but she managed to remain in balance. So as Seika thought she's strong, he realized he couldn't allow her to escape. But at that moment, an ugly loser appeared in the alley, wondering why they were making a noise. But as Mabel nearly ended his life, Seika discovered she had escaped. However, he already made up his mind for the next round of the tournament, and thought he must find her before dawn. Before long, he found her at a fountain, but told her that he didn't come to fight. When she wondered why he came, he told her that he intends to speak with her, and said she could still persuade him to forfeit the fight. But he told her that he's already discovered that she intends to die in Amy's place. She had been drawing the demons away from Amy as the fake hero, and thought that through her death, they would believe the hero was truly dead. However, Mabel revealed she was also hoping to eliminate Kyle, confessing that they were trained by the Rugrock Merchants Association, who turned slave children into mercenaries. Their association had created this tournament to test Kyle's ability as a perfect mercenary, because they had opened a hole inside of his skull to implant magic into his brain, taking away every form of his emotions. But before this process, the slave children were put into a group of 4s and trained together until they formed a special bond. However, only one of them would be made into a mercenary, and only after eliminating the others would he be considered a perfect mercenary. So with Mabel being the last survivor after Kyle, she thought it was her duty to end him in the finals, seeing as he already killed her brother. But after hearing those words, Seika thought she wasn't only flat, but was also a liar. He knew that Kyle was actually her brother, and that her red hair was only a disguise to convince everyone that she's the hero. Realizing he's discovered everything, she decided to reveal the truth, and said she intends to kill Kyle to free his soul. However, Seika thought she was too weak to do so, and said he would defeat Kyle in the finals. As she began thinking it wasn't possible, He told her that he's the strongest man in their world, and believed that Kyle's only desire was to see her free from the association. But Mabel vowed to defeat him anyway. The following day, when it was time for their round, he told her to give it her best shot, but she thought he was a useless noble kid who's been spoiled his entire life. So as she flashed behind him, she nearly slashed him in half, and as she destroyed the rubble, she sliced him apart, but realized it was only a piece of paper. But as he launched rocks that she evaded, Mabel shot her knives towards him, but he blocked them with a barrier. As the dust settled, he unleashed binding vines to restrain her, but she charged forward until Seika activated his falling fruit spell, and as he cast a spell of mercury binding vines, they restrained her again, and she realized she couldn't break free this time. Deciding to lift her axe, he cast a spell of floating leaves, but as he pretended to end her life, the whistle went off as the judges ended the round, declaring him to be the winner. When it was time for the final, Seika and Kyle faced off, but as Seika began saying that Mabel was still alive, Kyle told him that he would kill her after their tournament. Even though he remembered that she's his sister, he had completely lost every emotion for her, but Seika vowed to make him apologize to Mabel. As the round began, Seika cast red mist all around the arena floor, rendering his evil eye useless. But when Kyle began walking towards him, Seika blasted him with ghostlight. But as he was unscathed, he summoned mercury binding vines to restrain him. But the purple shadow destroyed it instantly, so he cast his shadow towards Seika. But as his barrier repelled it, Seika thought their fight was useless, so the divine gates of hell appeared before Kyle's eyes. In that moment, he summoned Oshioni, the fifth deity, and as the Minotaur emerged from the dimension, Kyle's shadows tried piercing its body, but its skin was stronger than steel, and the beast bashed his worthless face. With Kyle knocked unconscious, Seika thought he lost because he was never able to recognize his own limits. But as a seal began spreading across his body, the curse began eating away at him, even when inside of the barrier. As Seika began wondering how he could save him, Kyle stopped him and asked him to apologize to Mabel on his behalf. However, Seika grew angry at the thought of being bested by a curse, so he summoned 1,000 talismans at the same time. And looking to neutralize the curse, he prepared to cast a spell that would remove the curse from Kyle's body, and would even revive him from the dead. But as a beacon pierced the heavens, Yuki began telling him that it was dangerous to use his ultimate spell, as everyone in the arena would discover his secret powers. This mistake had cost him his previous life, and as the memories returned into his mind, Seika decided to stop the spell. However, by the time the fight was over, Kyle had mysteriously disappeared, and Seika had told everyone that he destroyed him without a single trace. But after the tournament, he buried him outside the capital, allowing Mabel to pay her last respect, and she told him that she knew her brother was cursed already. The end of their tournament arc had arrived, and the following day at their academy, Seika visited the principal's office and revealed that he saved Mabel just as she hoped. So as she realized that he already discovered everything, she began telling him that it was all part of the association's plans from the very start, as the only purpose for the tournament was to test Kyle's ability as a mercenary. After Seika arrived at the cafeteria, he noticed that Mabel had dyed her hair purple, but thought she was somehow even uglier now.
Damn!
Even so, when he wondered why she didn't visit him last night, she told him that he was drilling her too hard, and wanted to practice feeling his sword striking her body slowly. As Seika told her that it was her best hope for passing the exams, she began saying that her body was sore already and asked for Yifa to try and talk to him. However, Yifa thought Seika should pound his lessons even harder into her, and Mabel realized she was screwed. A few weeks later, with their summer break drawing close, Seika revealed that he was heading to the kingdom of Asteria to investigate a rogue dragon. But just then, an ugly moron entered the cafeteria, and as he began saying he could buy all these broke wages, Amy wondered who the fuck this virgin was. Right then, he noticed Seika at his table, and decided to introduce himself as Cecilio, the crown prince of Asteria. So as Seika heard these words, he welcomed him to the academy, but Cecilio noticed Yifa and thought she was the most beautiful girl he's ever seen. So he decided to use his best Discord pickup line, asking if her legs were a rope, because he wants to strangle himself in between them.
Yeah, that brother's starving.
However, she revealed that she was a slave and was Seika's servant. With Cecilio wishing to make her his coffin because he'd love to be inside of her, he told Seika to name her price. But his assistant told him that he's embarrassing himself in front of the others. A few minutes later, while inside a private room, Cecilio began telling Seika that the rogue dragon had lived in peace with the kingdom for a century, but was now beginning to attack the castle, and was growing worse every day. Just then, he noticed Yifa's massive cannons and began suggesting they have dinner together, but his assistant told him to restrain himself as Seika left the room. Later that day, while this worthless dickhead was heading back to the school, Amy pulled him into the bush and demanded to know what was happening. So after he revealed everything and began saying that he was willing to give Aoife away if she decides to join Cecilio's harem, the girls thought he was a moron. They had always known that Aoife was in love with him, so Mabel warned him to never ask Aoife if she was willing to join Cecilio's harem, as she thought it would hurt her feelings. A few days later, while riding off to Asteria, Aoife began telling Seika that Cecilio had asked her to ride his huge dragon, but she thought he had no intention of adding her to his harem. However, Seika told her that he meant every word he said, but when she thought it made her happy, he wondered what this awful feeling brewing inside of him was. When they arrived at Asteria, Aoife thought the view was great, but as Cecilio appeared at that moment, he began saying that the kingdom has lost all its glory ever since the dragon had been on a rampage. But as it flew over them, a man summoned a lava tiger, and as it charged at the dragon, it narrowly missed the beast as it flew away. Right then, it turned its attention on Aoife and rushed towards her, but Seika summoned ice crystals to block its path. However, its armor was too hot, but as the tiger jumped towards him instead, a magical chain restrained it, and the summoner appeared at that moment. However, when Seika wondered who this addict was, Cecilio revealed that he was the head of the mercenaries who he hired to slay the dragon. But Seika wondered why he would hire a guy who looked like he was on the verge of an overdose. Just then, Zek began saying that he has slain several dragons, and said that he's already been through 7 cycles of rehab and withdrawals. But Seika told him that he could tell from how fucked up his face was. As Cecilio tried separating them away, he commanded Zek to leave, so once he was gone to fulfill his withdrawals, Seika saw Aoife as she was about to thank him, but he began screaming at her for not using magic. After all, he wondered what she would have done if he wasn't around to save her, and if it was a mistake to bring her along. As she started to cry, Cecilio tried saying she merely froze up, but Seika told him to shut his yee-ass haircut up, and commanded Aoife to protect herself with magic next time, as freezing up could have ended her life. As he began to leave, he felt bad for speaking so harshly, but hoped she would be smarter next time. In his past life, he had frozen up while watching his older student get devoured by his dragon, but only managed to seal it afterwards. He was afraid that the same would happen to Aoife, and knew that he needed to be harsh on her to save her life. The following day, they decided to read all the books on the dragon, and discovered that it once lived with a female dragon on the mountain. However, they had begun to attack the people after hatching younger dragons, so Seika wondered if the same thing was happening now. But according to the history books, only the male dragon was alive, so Aoife wondered how it could possibly hatch younger dragons on its own. To discover for himself, Seika told her that he would climb up the mountain to see the dragon up close, but Aoife thought it would kill him. Even so, Seika's mind was made up already and said he would go anyway. That night, as Aoife appeared at his door, she told him that Cecilio had invited her to his room to polish his sword and wondered what she should do. As he said he would talk to that Karen haircut moron, she hesitated to tell him why she was really here, so he invited her inside. But as they laid in his bed, he realized he was too much of a pussy to make any moves, and this was why he died a virgin in his past life. As he decided to ask if Aoife was willing to join Cecilio's harem, she told him that she didn't, but wondered why he was asking. As she realized that he didn't think she was good enough for him, she promised to do whatever he wants. But Seika told her that joining a royal harem was the greatest honor most girls would wish for. However, when she wondered if he was okay with her leaving him, Seika revealed that he would be upset at first, but would be happy that she chose her own path. Hearing those words, she told him that she would sleep, and stayed crying all throughout the night, with no one discovering Aoife's feelings. The following morning, he noticed that she was gone, and even Yuki felt bad for how worthless he was, because Aoife was actually in love with him. But Seika thought it was only a crush. However, Yuki told him it was more than that, and wished he would realize before it was too late. As he met Cecilio during his tea time, he told him that he was going up the mountain to find the dragon. But as Cecilio heard these words, he realized it would take him a few days to return, and thought he would have enough time to persuade Aoife, but Seika could guess his thoughts and hoped he would stay far away from her. Later that day, as an elf girl appeared before Yifa and asked to speak with her in private, she told her that she already sensed her magic and revealed that she's a descendant of elves. She told her that the elementals must have led her to them and asked her to join Cecilio's harem, seeing as she couldn't continue to be Seika's slave forever as he was a demon after all. This was the reason why the elementals wouldn't draw closer to him, just as they would avoid any other demon. However, Yifa was certain that Seika couldn't possibly be a demon and began saying that they grew up together. But Lizzie thought one of his parents must have been a demon. She told her to run away from him and offered to show her around the mansion. Meanwhile, Seika had arrived at the top of the mountain, but as the dragon noticed him, it launched its fire breath. But Seika's barrier protected him from the attack. So when the dragon charged at him, he disappeared at that instant. And as he summoned an ugly stone monster, the sixth deity landed on top of the beast, releasing a high-pitched frequency that weakened the dragon before returning into the gates of hell. When the dragon began to recover, Seika cast the spell of asbestos net on it, successfully trapping the beast. As he arrived inside the nest, he realized the dragon was protecting an egg, and thought it must have changed into a female since it was 2024, and remembered that even identifying as an attack helicopter was possible now. Just then, he decided to move the egg, having learned that each end of the egg must point towards the sky. This made him realize that the legend of the Asteria princess who hatched a dragon egg must have been true. At Cecilio's mansion, Lizzie continued showing Yifa around, saying she would be treated better than the others if she managed to become Cecilio's favorite wife. On top of that, she would be allowed to participate in the government, and would even become a powerful official. But Yifa's only desire was to stay at Seika's side. At the same time, Seika had grown exhausted from moving the dragon egg, and even the dragon had decided to make him the egg keeper. However, Seika was glad that the dragon was no longer out of control, and as it drew him closer, he realized that it was growing attached to him. At the mansion, as Yifa came across Cecilio, he began wondering if she's finally willing to join his harem, as he hoped Lizzie had successfully persuaded her. Right then, one of his men began to draft a price for her liberation tax, and Cecilio revealed that he's preparing paperwork for her freedom. Once the contract was completed, she would be free to make her own decisions, and Cecilio said he's willing to buy her freedom for any price. Afraid of getting separated from Seika, Yifa told him that she was willing to live as a slave forever, but Cecilio thought she was confused and told her that he would definitely buy her off. He was convinced that Seika was dangerous and said he couldn't allow her to remain with the menace. However, Yifa thought he was the menace and began saying that she wishes to stay with Seika forever. Even so, the men thought completing her slave contract was more important, and one loser said she would be glad that they forced her against her own will.
Are you delusional? Do you suffer from a mental illness?
His words made Yifa realize she was surrounded by a bunch of mentally ill morons, but as the guards seized her immediately, Lizzie threatened to end her life if she tries to use magic. So as Yifa realized they've been sealed inside a barrier, Lizzie launched a wind lance past her body, nicking her thumb, but as she tried to force her hand on the contract, the dragon broke the barrier at that instant. Just then, Seika appeared from the dragon's head, and Yifa was glad that her savior had arrived, but Seika revealed that he's managed to befriend the beast. While everyone was still shocked, he continued by saying that the dragon would no longer attack their kingdom, but said Cecilio must keep the dragon egg warm. With Yifa able to use fire magic, Seika thought she could keep the egg warm and called her to join him on the dragon. But when Lizzie tried telling her to return, Yifa told her that Seika was the love of her life. So as they rode away on the dragon, Yifa wished she could ride something else, but when Seika asked her what do you mean by that, she told him that she didn't say anything.
So you're a liar.
After arriving on top of the mountain, Yifa noticed the dragon egg, but as the useless summoner called forth the lava tiger, it tried to devour them, but Seika trapped it in a transparent fortress. At that moment, Zekt and his team of losers appeared, and as Seika realized they've been trying to steal the dragon egg, Zekt vowed to kill him so that he could protect his secret. He thought Prince Cecilio was the biggest moron in the world. But as the tiger melted off the fortress, rushing towards them, a tall fountain blew it away, and Seika realized it was Yifa's magic. She had managed to awaken the magic inside her ring, and told the addict that she's about to send him back to rehab. Desperate to eliminate them, Zekt directed the tiger to attack again, before commanding his men to follow for support. With Seika completely unfazed, he cast a spell of white flames, obliterating the tiger at that instant. But when he tried commanding the men to attack, the dragon appeared before their eyes, and as the sight scared the shit out of them, they began running away. However, Seika captured them with binding vines, and Aoife burned Zek's spellbook. After she neutralized him, Seika said that he was glad that she was able to become stronger, and thought she was amazing for learning water magic. A few hours later, after they returned to the mansion, Seika explained everything that happened, so Cecilio decided to send the men to prison. As he wondered how Seika made peace with the dragon, Seika revealed that he helped it to raise its egg, and thought the legend about the queen was true. Her desire to hatch the dragon egg had made the dragon take her as family, and to protect the kingdom for centuries. So Cecilio told his knights to arrest him, saying that he was responsible for making the dragon go rogue. Deciding to play along, Seika agreed to follow the knights, but when Cecilio began telling Aoife that she's finally free, and can now become his woman, Seika smacked his hand away. Having had enough of his bullshit, Seika told him that he had only went along with his arrest because of their useless politics, but realized that he was only after Aoife this entire time. He called him a spoiled little kid, and told him that he could never give Aoife away to him. At that moment, Lizzie realized that she had seen enough and asked to know Aoife's own feelings. Without hesitating, Aoife told Cecilio that she wanted to stay by Seika's side forever, because even if she wasn't his slave, she wouldn't join his useless royal harem. After he was rejected, Lizzie told Cecilio that his dyke-ass haircut was the reason.
It's facts! It's facts! It's not facts. These sites are not facts.
And as she thanked Seika for taming the dragon, she asked to speak with Aoife in private. Inside a different room, Lizzie realized that Aoife was in love with him, so she asked for her hand, giving her the ability to tame the light elements. She thought that she was just like the elfin princess in the legends, so she believed that Seika would recognize her beauty one day. Meanwhile, in a forest, a group of sorcerers were eliminating monsters, and as the leader appeared before a random dude, he asked to know where the hero was. However, a huge monster appeared at that moment, and the man was glad that he managed to summon the one-eyed monster with the last ounce of his magic. As the leader drew his sword, the giant slammed him with his axe, but it snapped in half. Looking to eliminate it, the leader flashed towards him, and as he repelled the monster's attack with a dispel circle, he slayed it instantly. So as he returned to the man, he commanded his comrades to devour him, and hoped to find the hero soon. A few days later, with Seika back to the academy, he decided to ask Amy to meet his family, saying that he's been invited home for spring break. As she agreed to follow him, Seika decided to invite Mabel as the third wheel. However, as he began to leave, he realized he wasn't eager to return home, as he had no wish to see the useless guest in their mansion. He thought only his presence would draw attention, and was afraid that it would cost him his life once again. The following day, when they arrived at Seika's mansion, Luft welcomed them, and Seika noticed that he looks less uglier than he remembers. Just then, Glai screamed Seika's name, and as they realized he was wearing armor, Seika wondered if he was enjoying the army, and Glai told him that it was the perfect place for him. However, he still remembered the humiliation of their last fight, and challenged him to another duel. At the same time, Aoife revealed that Glai was the ugly bully who made her life hell, so Amy told him that she would be his opponent instead. When Glai wondered who the f this bitch was, Seika told him that she was far stronger than him, so he would accept his challenge if he was able to defeat Amy. As he grew excited at the thought, Glai accepted the challenge, and told Amy to use her real sword, saying he would use a wooden one. As Seika heard these words, he thought that Amy would win easily, so he commanded that they fight without any magic. Immediately, Amy attacked Glai, but he managed to block her attack. So as she continued striking his sword, putting pressure into her attacks, Glai stumbled back. But when she tried to finish him off, he pretended to cast a spell, and as she got distracted, he smacked off her sword, telling her that he's won the duel. When she began saying he cheated, he said that he never used magic, and all dirty tricks were fair on a battlefield when their lives were on the line. As he appeared before Seika, he challenged him to a duel, saying he already heard that he won the martial arts tournament, and thought he's a worthy opponent. But at that moment, a hot girl arrived, wondering why her holy knight intends to fight in a duel. She thought the fight was meaningless, and told Glai to give his meaningless life a purpose. So as Glai decided to withdraw from the fight, Seika wondered how she forced him to listen, but Glai introduced the girl as Princess Fiona, and the girls were shocked they were meeting the Holy Princess. While inside the mansion, Yuki began wondering who the Holy Princess really is, so Seika revealed that she was born from a priestess, and that her father was the emperor. Inside a private room, the princess began saying that she had been waiting to meet them, and thought Amy looks exactly like the hero in the fairy tales. As she noticed Seika, she decided to thank him for showing up, and said she wishes he would become one of her knights. but Seika told her that her wishes were as worthless as her face. That night, Fiona wondered if Aoife was Seika's girlfriend, but Aoife began choking harder than she does on Seika's meat. At the same time, his father remembered the day he asked Aoife's father to confess the truth about if he was upset that Aoife left for the magical academy. However, Eddie's was only mad that he made her the servant of the disgusting bastard child. But Blaze told him to never say those words again, as he knew that his son was good. So he congratulated Seika on saving the Asteria Kingdom, as all the nations had heard of his success. But his mom asked him to write home more often. Although this was the first time he's ever heard her voice speaking to him, he wondered why she sounded like a cancer patient after smoking for 50 years. Later that night, as Amy visited Seika in his room, he told her that she shouldn't be entering his room to have a duel with his sword at night. But she told him that he's already seen her without any plot armor. However, she asked him what he was planning to do after graduating the lower grades, as she revealed that she intends to return to being an adventurer. So Seika reminded her that in the dungeon where she stripped for him, he promised to adventure with her, so he would also become an adventurer. However, he had no clue what should be done, and wondered if she would become his teacher when the time came. So as she agreed, she told him that she's looking forward to their first time together before deciding to leave the room. Once she was gone, however, Yuki asked him if he's forgotten already that he was only using Amy to conceal his power behind hers, but Seika told her that he could never forget. The next day, as they took Fiona on a tour of the town, Gly told him that they would need to work together to protect the princess, but she decided to hold Seika's hand as she hurried into the market. Before long, she noticed a young couple and began wondering how she could draw closer to Seika, so Amy suggested they put their lives in danger, saying it creates a special bond. Thinking it was a great idea, Fiona decided to lead them to a construction site. And as she suggested taking a closer look, she decided to draw Seika closer. Just then, a rope broke, but as the boards spilled towards them, Gly and Amy cast a spell at the same time, protecting them from the boards. However, Fiona was disappointed that Seika casted no spells, having expected to be saved by him instead. So to make it up to her, Seika decided to buy Fiona a gift, and as he fixed her scarf in an alley, he summoned a quartz mirror to give her a good view of herself. And as she thought it was pretty, she told him that she loves his gift. At dawn the next day, Seika met Gly while he was training, and as he wondered if he was showing off that he was a holy knight, Gly told him that it wasn't as great as it sounded. He revealed that being called a holy knight was only a political move from the princess, since it sounded good to the ears. He wasn't chosen for his skill, but rather because of a secret plan Fiona was creating. After all, she was a politician, but she was also able to maneuver her way from nothing to becoming the favorite for the throne. When Seika wondered how this was possible, Gly told him that Fiona can see the future, just like her mother who was the Oracle Princess. For this reason, she had asked to see Amy, knowing already that she's the hero. But as Gly realized that Seika had known already, he warned him to stay out of her way, saying that she's working towards taking over the empire. But Seika thought there was more to it. So later that day, when she began searching for him all over the mansion, Seika hid inside the bushes, having grown sick of her ugly face. But as Amy began walking by, he popped up before her, nearly scaring her off. When she realized that he was hiding from Fiona, she suggested he spends the day with her, having noticed she was eager to find him. So a few minutes later, Seika decided to join her on the balcony, and as she asked him to play her in chess, he accepted the challenge. But just before they began, Fiona decided to place a bet, saying that the loser would owe the winner a favor. Even though he knew he couldn't win, Seika decided to accept the bet anyway. As they began to play, Fiona decided to ask him who he thought the strongest chess piece in the world was. Seika thought she was the one, and began saying that she has the ability to control soldiers and every powerful person in the city from an unsuspecting position. As she thought his answer was smart, she told him that his answer was close, because the real mastermind would always stay out of sight. However, she thought the pawns were the most powerful entity, since the people could easily overthrow an empire when in unison. For this reason, she was looking to have the people's support, and thought this would make her the first choice to the throne. Right then, she told Seika that she would win the game, but Seika already knew she had seen into the future. As she realized he had discovered her ability, she thought Gly must have told him, but Seika revealed he had already figured it out on his own. When she had first interfered in his spar with Gly, he had thought she must have seen Gly losing to him, and after she led him to the spot where the rope happened to fall on top of them, He knew that she was capable of predicting the future. However, when he wondered if she intends to save the Empire with her ability, she revealed that the future was actually unpredictable, and said it could always change. Realizing he couldn't possibly win this game, Seika decided to accept defeat. And at that moment, Fiona decided to tell him that she was intending to save someone that was close to her death, but was afraid that revealing the person would change the future. Deciding to be her personal bitch, Seika offered to help her. Meanwhile, in the forest, the group of demons had annihilated an army of bandits, and as the captain was glad to have seen them grow stronger, he told his men to consume all the bodies. With his new Zorman ability, which granted him the power to see everyone's strength, Zor thought they would succeed and successfully kill the hero. Back at the mansion, Seika and the others were ready to return to the academy, but after traveling for hours, he noticed something was off about the forest as a carriage blew up in front. However, it was the decoy Fiona had set up, so Seika leapt onto the roof to see where they were hiding. At the same time, the men were running away as the bandits appeared on a cliff, and at the leader's command, a group of archers aimed at Fiona's carriage, but Seika cast his magnetic storm spell, so as they fired their arrows, the cloud repelled them easily. Even so, the leader commanded his archers to fire again, but as they did, another cloud repelled their attacks. The sight of it made the leader wonder who the hell Seika was, but as he realized that nearly all the carriages were a decoy, he commanded his men to attack Fiona's carriage with all their magic. So one of the men began to cast a spell and launched a rock towards Seika, but it fell apart on his barrier. With the leader growing desperate, he commanded his men to attack head-on. But Glai emerged from the carriage, glad they had run out of arrows. So as he screamed for his men to attack, they began to subdue the bandits. But Fiona told Seika to capture them alive. Immediately, he decided to summon binding vines, restraining them at the same time. A few minutes later, as he asked Fiona why she decided to spare the bandits, wondering if she intends to use them against her political enemies, she told him that her only desire was to find the men who plotted her assassination. However, Seika thought it was dangerous to keep them alive, but Fiona thought she was safer now, and revealed that the other bandits have all been annihilated. This was their future, and she revealed that the captured bandits would wait for a signal that would never come for the rest of their lives. After a few days, they arrived at the capital, so as Fiona told Seika that she's on their side, she told him to never forget her before heading inside. At the same time, the group of demons were rushing towards the capital, but Zor wondered if they would all manage to escape after killing the hero. Even so, he was determined to end her life for the demon race, and as they spotted the capital before them, he thought their future was about to begin. The next day at the academy, Zor thought it would be easy to eliminate the hero without getting spotted. However, he was afraid in his heart, but thought it was only from the fear of failing. As he reviewed their plans to drive all the students into the center building, he said they must slaughter everyone until they come across the hero, thinking they couldn't possibly fail. Loni began saying that his shadow beasts are prepared, and Mudarev said he would eat all the students. So at Zor's command, Mudarev summoned magic circles and teleported them inside the academy grounds. However, as they realized the entire area was covered with red fog, Mudarev began wondering why there was no fog outside the walls. Deciding to continue anyway, he summoned flames to light his way, and as he noticed two students, he rained fire on them, but realized they had vanished already. At the same time, Loni and Salia were walking through the fog, but as they noticed a student run across, Loni summoned his shadow monsters to pursue them. However, as they found no traces, Loni wondered if they were in a hypnotic circle. On the other side, Mudarev was looking for humans, but managed to block an attack with his club. From the piercing stab, he thought the attacker must be a worthy opponent, and Mabel appeared before his eyes. Wondering who the hell he is, Mabel asked how he infiltrated the school, but Mudarev told her that he's come to devour her. As she realized he wasn't from the Merchants Association, she attacked with her axe, and just as she withdrew, she attacked again. However, Mudarev had already leapt 10 feet into the air, but as she managed to dodge his attacks, Mudarev thought she was staying on the defense. Just then, she nearly sliced him up, and Mudarev wondered how her strike was so heavy when she looked smaller than a bone. Even so, he was glad to have a worthy opponent, but as he blocked her axe and noticed it was actually light, he flung her away, immediately shielding his face from her knives. But as he began thinking it was over, magical ropes bound him at that instant, and Mabel thought she had won the fight, but Mudarev destroyed them easily. As he revealed that he was resistant to magic elements, he parried her blades and smashed her against the ground. However, when the dust cleared, he realized she was gone, and saw a talisman left where she was. At the same time, Zor had arrived at the rendezvous point, and as Ganes joined him, he revealed that he was mysteriously led here. At that moment, the others arrived, and as they revealed the talisman they found, Zor realized something was wrong. Thinking they were walking into a trap, Zor told the others to retreat immediately, but Seika began reciting his poem of death at that moment. As he revealed that they have all been under his shikigami, Muterev thought he's a perfect opponent, but when he tried to challenge him, his head fell off instantly, and Seika realized he was actually weak. Desperate to avenge him, Salia began to ascend towards Seika, and as she revealed her evil eye, Seika decided to summon his seventh and final heavenly deity, the White Serpent. With both of them possessing the evil eye, the snake managed to overpower her magic with its own gaze, giving her a heart attack that made her fall to the ground. Right then, a robot serpent emerged before it, but as it tried to devour the white snake, it died instantly, so Loni began trying to hypnotize the serpent. He said he wants to become its friend, but the snake made him friends with its belly, before withdrawing into the gates of hell.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Desperate to escape, Ganes offered to distract Seika, but Zor told him to survive and tell the demon clan everything that happened. Activating the Zorman, Zor decided to look into Seika's abilities, and realized he's the demon king they've been waiting for. However, he was nothing of what they thought, so Zor told Ganes to warn the rest of their clan that the demon king has reincarnated, but Seika told them that he would only protect the hero. Hearing his words, Zor realized their demon king was born into the human race, and thought he was the worst possible demon king in history. So to save Ganes, Zor told him to leave immediately, and said he would cover for him, but Seika was ready to end both of them. As he prepared his spell, Zor summoned a shield for protection. But as the burning lava rose 100 meters high, burning everything around, Seika realized that one of them had managed to escape. At the same time, Ganes had managed to make it into the forest, but was already wounded from the attack, and wondered how Seika was the demon king. Just then, a gaping hole appeared inside his body, and as he thought Seika must have been responsible, he passed out at that instant. Inside the academy, Seika had pierced a talisman with a little knife, and was certain that Ganes wouldn't survive the attack. But as Mabel arrived at that moment, she began wondering if he came across Muterev. However, as Seika told her to calm down, he said he's always admired her strength and courage, but Mabel was worried that the demon was still on the loose. Hoping to help her relax, Seika revealed that the enemies were after the hero, but said that he's taken care of them already. With Mabel in shock by his words, she wondered how he managed to defeat Muterev and repel all the enemies, but he told her to keep it a secret. A few days later, when the entrance ceremony was over, Seika realized that Amy was completely clueless about the attacks, and thought she must be the most useless hero in the world. Just then, a bunch of knights burst inside the hall, and as the captain revealed that they were the Dierok Knights, he said they have come on the order of the Queen to arrest Amy for committing crimes against the Empire. He said she was discovered to have slain a demon emissary, and that her punishment was to be executed. As Amy began wondering how that was possible, the captain commanded his men to arrest her, but at that moment, Seika stopped Mabel from attacking the knights, and told Amy that she would be released soon. However, as his words made them angrier, the knights surrounded them, but the captain commanded them to stop before leading Amy away. At dawn the next day, Seika went to meet the principal in her office, revealing that he'd already figured out the Empire was seeking a reason to execute Amy, since she was the strongest person in the world. But although she told him to not get any ideas, since she was applying pressure, Seika said she needed to apply a pressure that was bigger than her nose. He knew that Amy would die before her worthless pressure bared any fruit, so he left her office, making her wonder why the Demon King cared about the hero. That night in the forest, Seika summoned the great dragon Ryu, and as he commanded it to obey his voice, wondering if he was no longer worthy of being its master, Ryu returned to him. Just then, Yuki appeared, and as she realized what he intended to do, she told him to abandon Amy, since his plans of freeing her would reveal his secret to the world, and all of the years of hiding his powers would be wasted. However, Seika wouldn't allow that to happen, swearing to kill anyone who saw his power. As the memories of his past life made him realize Amy was going through the same pain, Seika told Yuki to disappear because she was only a spirit, and would never understand, so he leaped onto the dragon, commanding it to head west. By the time they arrived at the castle, Seika cast a spell that sent a rain of talismans falling down. So as the papers turned into rats, Seika saw through their eyes, and eventually found Amy inside her cell. Just then, he began climbing down into the castle, But as a knight spotted him, he blew a whistle to summon the others. Before he knew it, archers surrounded the area. But as they fired their arrows, Seika cast his magnetic storm, parrying all of their attacks. To eliminate them, he decided to cast a spell, crushing the army under double keystones. As he made his way deeper into the castle, he spotted another army and commanded them to get out of his way. But they launched fire arrows at him, forcing him to hide. As he realized they would not surrender, he cast a spell of white flames, obliterating them at that instant. And as the rest of the army grew desperate, they launched arrows at him. But Seika summoned his forbidden eighth deity, Sickle Weasel, and the monster slayed them in an instant. As the others tried to escape, Seika materialized before them, so as they rushed at him, he unleashed fire, allowing Weasel to annihilate the entire army. Before long, he found Amy inside her cell, and melted the bars with his hands. When she wondered how he managed to infiltrate the prison, she began saying that his entire family could be dragged into this problem. But Seika told her that her life is more important. To save him from getting into more trouble, she told him to leave immediately, saying she would rejoin him at the academy. But Seika told her that she's the reincarnated hero who was destined to be reborn at the same time as the Demon King. For this reason, the Empire had planned to execute her, so Seika suggested they escape before dawn. Just then, he sensed a presence and cast Ghostlight at them, but Gly parried it with his sword. As Seika thought he's come to fight with him, he told him that he's ready for their duel, but Fiona appeared at that moment. Thinking she already saw this in a vision, Seika began saying she must have been their enemy all along. But she told him that she was not their enemy, and wondered if Seika would accept her offer. However, he wanted to know why Amy was about to be executed, since the hero being on their side was the only way they could defeat the Demon Lord. But Fiona told him that the hero and Demon King were now relics of the past. With both sides now having armies, she revealed that they can't rely on the strength of the hero in their wars. But Seika wondered why they intend to kill her anyway. He thought the Empire could have easily ignored her, but Fiona told him that the hero has the potential of starting a war merely by existing. For the same reason, the demons had decided to attack her, so that they could stop the war from ever happening by putting an end to her life. On top of that, Fiona revealed that Amy would never be as powerful as the previous hero, because the Demon Lord was the one who was protecting her all along. However, Seika thought this was enough reasons to spare her life, and said he couldn't allow her to be executed. Desperate to regain his trust, Fiona began saying that she was never going to execute Amy, but was actually trying to protect her from the Empire. She vowed to release her eventually, and told Seika to leave before he's charged with a serious crime. But when Seika thought she was lying, she reminded him about their bet. However, Seika wondered why he would ever trust her. Realizing she couldn't possibly change his mind, Fiona said that she would allow them to leave, and commanded Gly to call off their army. But as Gly was about to say a word, Seika told him that he was the last person he could trust. So as Gly walked away, she offered to lead them to their carriage, and after arriving outside, she told them to head to the free city of Rihanna, saying it would be the only safe place for them. However, before leaving, Amy decided to return her blanket, and told Seika that Fiona and Gly visited her when she was alone in the cell, and had vowed to release her soon. Hearing those words, Seika realized he was wrong after all, so he apologized for not keeping their promise, but hoped to make it up to her as he returned to the battleground. He was glad that everything was back to normal, but Fiona wondered how she was ever going to explain that people were revived from the dead. Even so, she was glad he was this type of person, and wished they would meet again someday. After arriving at the carriage, Fiona was watching them from the castle, and as the shadow god appeared in the ground, wondering who the powerful being was, Fiona revealed that he's the Demon King of their generation. The shadow god wondered why he was protecting the hero, so Fiona revealed that she's very special to him. But when he asked her why Fiona trusted the Demon Lord, she decided to reveal her secret. She had watched over Seika ever since he was young, and knew he would be forced to continue using his powers regardless of the threats that he faced, because that was the kind of person he was. After all, he had sacrificed all of his talismans he created throughout the years, just to revive the soldiers he killed. Outside the town, Seika and Amy began making their way to Rihanna, and seeing as they couldn't return to the capital, Amy thought they were now both expelled from the academy. Even so, he was glad to spend the rest of his life with her, asking her to teach him how to polish his sword. In the following weeks, Fiona would inform Aoife and Mabel about Seika's location, and after countless sleepless nights under the new moon, and burning days traveling through the desert, they finally made it to Rihanna. This was going to be the start of his new life, because in this world, he wouldn't be alone. After all, he finally had people he cared about, and people who cared about him. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.